Ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather around. Today, I was supposed to be doing a whole bunch of paint prep, but I got carried away, and I've already assembled what we're going to assemble in this video. Again, you should be used to this by now. So, here's where we're at. We got it all mostly back together, and I have in fact started doing some of the bodywork, just not on this. We have some over there.
Let's go! First, this is way back before we even put the cab on the frame. We're spraying this whole thing mouse gray. It's pretty much the closest you're going to find to Ford engine gray. So I'm taking a note from Bitchin' Rides and Kindigit Design. Paint the engine bay, and interior all the same color. So I'm doing that. Frame was sandblasted, and the next day epoxy primed, and the next day polyurethane black, so I don't have to sand every nook and cranny, long as you can spray it over the recoat window. Here's the mouse gray on the door panels, 3-to-1 black to gray to give me a dark gray for the door panels and the dashboard, much like the originals were done. I just kept adding black until I was happy with the gray. This wasn't originally two-tone in the interior, but it is now. Sanding, scuffing, and for whatever drunken reason, I've decided I'm going to jam the truck and then put everything together and spray the whole thing. Normal, like professional guys would spray everything and then reassemble it and try not to get chips on every mating surface. And that's what I'm going to do. So instead, I'm just going to assemble it and spray it all in one go. Like a fool, I chose to paint everything with PPG's Del Fleet paint. It's high solids. It's an industrial kind of paint. I am quite pleased with it, but when you have the paint, you've got an activator and a hardener, and I believe it's the hardener you get 14 days from when you open the container to when it has to be used. So that gets expensive when you're painting a bunch of little stuff, because a pint is 40 bucks. And you got 14 days, and it's just me, so I'm not going through it fast enough. Inner fenders, I'm going to be painting them all gray, so I cleaned up and fixed up all of the weld and everything with kitty hair. It's a short strand fiberglass filler, good to use on areas where you've welded because it is a lot more waterproof than regular filler. Not the funnest to sand, so it's good to put down first. This is like the mud you use when you're taping drywall together, but don't do this. Would get expensive if you're drywalling with kitty hair. Then sand it, and then I think I did some regular filler over top to make it nice and smooth. And while I'm sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding and aiming for perfection, part of me is like, 5 years from now, when this is covered in road grime and blow-by residue, how much am I going to really care about how not perfect everything is? Epoxy primered all over everything. Epoxy primered the bumper. I think you're just going to see the inside of the bumper, but I had a plan. Bit of epoxy over the seam sealer that I used on the cab and everything as well. Lots of seam sealer on the underside of the inner fenders as well. Here it is with a nice coat of not quite flat enough gray. Then with it epoxied, I can clean up any defects in the bumper and the grill. And I think I just had a fender there to use up whatever's left with the epoxy. You can see on the left we got the signal light bezels and the headlight bezels. One of those had a bit of a defect from somebody parking it a little abruptly. So a bit of filler, make that nice and gorgeous. I did try to hammer out the little dents as much as I could. Epoxy on the outside. I am using Proform epoxy primer. Apparently it is not a diisocyanate. Nevertheless, my lungs don't like it a whole lot. All the door hinges were taken apart. This is always a good opportunity to use the French wrench to loosen everything up. And I bought new hinge bushings and put them all in so it's all nice and tickety-boo. I was able to save all but one of the door hinge pins. They were all sandblasted, epoxied when I sprayed the doors, and then sprayed gray, probably when I sprayed the doors. Here are the doors. The bottoms of these, in an earlier video I was kind of bragging about how they're not that bad, and then I got into doing the cab and went, wow, these are bad. So we had door bottoms picked up from Bill's truck shop in Ontario. They arrived within a week, and I had them all welded in. I probably have a video on fixing doors somewhere. If I put it up in the link above, that means I went back and put the link up. If not, check the playlist down below. There's also a list with which video you want to see that shows you how to fix the doors. Check the description. Check the links. Sanding, scuffing, making it all nice. I'm getting better at bodywork. I'm not McLoving it, let me tell you. In this section, you can see I'm wearing a charcoal mask because I'm laying down the epoxy primer. And it's not bad for filtering the stuff out, but still not the best for you. I do have something new coming up. You'll see it in a little bit later in the video to help with the breathing of this. So some filler to hide the welded area. I TIG welded the bottoms of these doors together. With repairing with rust, I recommend TIG and try to make your panels fit with zero gap. That really reduces the amount of shrink that you get, and TIG is certainly a more malleable weld. I did some repairs using oxyacetylene and a fairly small torch, but you end up with quite a bit of a heat affected zone. I think if I were to do this again, I would still use TIG, but I might play with pulse to try and control or limit the amount of heat affected zone I end up with. Of course, these are the bottoms of the doors. Nobody's going to see it, so you can really be fussy if you want to be. And then, what am I doing here? Wax and grease remover. Get rid of any fingerprints or anything. And then another coat of primer. I have no idea how many gallons and gallons I've sprayed of epoxy primer, but certainly infinitely more than Chevy put on the inside, let me tell you. 2K seam sealer. This is definitely nice. I may not have put this on as pretty as a show-stopping professional might do, but it sealed the seam, and that's doing what I need it to do. Interesting stuff, this.
So, seam sealer. I've often used this stuff, It's like from Canada. It's Dominion Shore Seal, That's what I got for my son. My son, we're going to seal that car up real good for you, don't you know? And that works. I don't know how long it lasts, but if I'm going to be doing this little beastie, there's something else you can use. So, this is, a lot of companies have different types. This is by SEM, there's others, and it's a 2K. You're going to need to get yourself a caulking gun, a 2-barrel caulking gun. The SEM ones are cha-ching, but this one was an eBay special for, I don't remember, 50 bucks, 60 bucks, whatever. They come with this swizzle stick, so the goop goes in there, spirals its way all through here and mixes, and then you've got a limited time until it's no longer usable. But they come with 2 of these. When I did the underside of the cab, I went through like 3 of those double tubes, caulking everything, but I was really kind of fussy because I wanted to make sure that everything's sealed, because I really want to limit how quickly it takes to rust out, Is that right? Limit how quickly? Limit how long? I don't want it to rust out quick. So I gooped the snot out of it and then bed linered the bottom. So going through 3 tubes for the bottom, I'm like, holy smokes, I need to get myself more tubes. I bought 5 tubes, they're not cheap. And ended up using 1 for the entire rest of the cab. So including the, I don't know if you can see that, including the drip rail up there. Some guys will use a self-leveling seam sealer up here, which is a little bit of a challenge on this not level section. I don't care. I just don't want it to rust, like show cars or whatever. And when I did the interior, the seam up in the back of the cab was not filled from the factory. So I did seam seal that, taped it up and gooped it nice and good in there. I don't know if that shows up too well in the picture. And I also did the dashboard down here. as well as up at the top. And I painted this a little different. Originally, this was like a cheesy garbage tape line, and it was charcoal gray from there down, and then this was silver, and I thought that's a dumb place to slice it. So I just carried it all the way up and used this natural seam to divide it. And that may look stupid when it's all back together, but so do I. All right, the can says this seam sealer is instantly paintable, so I guess you can goop it on, let it set, and then give her. I'm not a production shop. I can't do stuff that quickly when it's just me. However, some of this I've found it can be sanded too. So there's some gargantuan gaps in the body. There were some pretty goopy ones up here. So that's been seam sealed pretty aggressively, and then I'm going to sand it a little bit more smooth. And I've already sanded a bit lower, other way. What are you doing? Who's working this? And I just gooped a little bit more on there just to smooth that a bit better, just so there's no chance that moisture is going to get past the seal from the windshield. It probably will, just to bug me. And even went in through here and gooped that. I'm not sure how to get through the inside of this, and I'm not sure it's even worth it. Also seam seal the doors. It'll work, it'll seal. Keep it from rusting, that's all I'm after. Seam sealer, woo! It smells like fish, kind of weird.
All right, back to work. We're wiping her down. I got a tack cloth because it's not exactly a spray booth, and you want to make sure you're not getting any dust all over the place while it's sitting. And then we sprayed, looks like a relatively heavy tack coat. Maybe I missed the recording of that. But this is the flattened Del Fleet Mouse Gray. I kind of avoided the center because nobody cares. There's the hinges, all pretty and gorgeous, next to the gauge cluster, which I took apart, and we'll probably forget how it goes back together. If you are ambidextrous, you can easily use your kneecap to operate a vise, and then with the help of a little bit of a socket, you can crush these, or compress them rather, that's a classier word, to get your hinges all assembled. Worked dandy. Now there should be very little slop in the hinges. Here's my new spraying apparatus. This is a breathable air system from somewhere. I can't remember. I'll put the name at the bottom of the screen and leave a link in the description. But this thing is relatively affordable. I think it's about $400 US. And you put a little container like 25 feet away from where you are. It pipes in enough air in a full face mask. I could spray all day with this. With a charcoal mask spraying a diisocyanate, I don't always feel so good after a little bit of spraying, especially indoors and sometimes outdoors. But with this, with fresh air being piped in, I love it. I don't know if I can get the seal for the heater, but these floor mats look like they'll do the job. Not really floor mats, but like floor mats. It works.
Welcome to this mess. This is the heater core. I used some foam floor pad tile stuff to seal this and this. This is one of the brackets that holds the heater core up to the bottom of this plate. I lost one, so I made another one. Probably gonna work. I don't know where it is. Now that I've made this, it'll show up.
Future me interrupting. Never did show up. It'll probably be finished once the truck is gone. I've driven it, sold it, who knows. Never found it.
That's unique. I don't know if they have this in later ones, but definitely the earlier stuff. I don't know how it works. Hope it works. I mean, I know how the heater core works. I don't know about this.
So this is the deluxe air or deluxe heat option for this truck, and it puts the heater element in the engine bay and it takes fresh air in to operate the heater. The cheap Econo Air or whatever they called it, economy heater, just is like perpetually on recirculate and doesn't provide quite enough heat. This is right over the turbo exhaust, so it's probably going to be too much heat. However, I'm going to drive this every day, so I want a decent heater in winter. Oh, now we're under the hood. Looks like we're getting ready to spray some stuff. So we're going to scuffity scuff. I'm going to scuff it all with 180, I think, or 220, probably both. And then we'll be spraying that as well. Should be cool.
So I sprayed the inside of the hood with Ford engine gray to match the rest of the interior and the engine. And in anticipation of putting this all together, I sprayed the edges of the hood body color so that when I put it all together and spray the outside, the edges are done. So we have to see how it looks. Also from Bill's truck shop out of Ontario, I picked up 60 to 66 hood brace pad kit. Let's see if we can figure out where they go.
I'm like 50% sure I've got them all in the right place. I ended up actually making a couple others from the floor mat as well. After a fair bit of deliberation, I decided, yes, I'm going to delete the radio antenna completely. I really don't listen to radio very much at all. I may put a hidden antenna somewhere in the cab, but this was just cut out of some 18 gauge sheet and made to fit with 0 gaps, tack welded, plenished, fully TIG welded, and I often use MIG filler or MIG wire 030 to use as filler when I'm TIG welding something really small. I've got the cool little bullseye pick to get any last little bits out of there. And it looked pretty good. Thick coat of primer, probably do good. We're going to put in some filler and fill it just because you think you did awesome, but you know what? My welding skills are going to warp stuff. It's going to be a little drunk. And, you know, filler fixes everything. Everything.
So this is the steering column seal for a 60 to 66. But that's the steering column seal panel for the 60 to 63, I guess. That's not going to work. So we go back to the floor mat. Out of there, you take these out and you replace them with this kind of junk. So, because these go all the way through and hold the fuse box. One of the things that helps in getting the hood on is I made a bunch of these from bolts. Just cut the head off, put a slot in it, and then I thread this into the back hole of the hood, so at least I have a pin that can find its way into the hinges. And then I can put the front bolt in with my fingers and then change that out. But that at least makes it stay there when I have it trying to get it on. So I got kind of excited, got the front end together mostly. Inner fenders, rad support, front, and then you discover just how badly these things fit. Don't care. I'm not interested. It's not perfect. It'll be fine. Also got a heater hose because I don't apparently have the other one. Trying to snake this away from the turbo. And, oh, there it is. Got the power steering Hydro Boost cooler. Painted up, blasted, primed, painted. And we're going to install this underneath the radiator. And over there we got a Champion Rads radiator. It's rated at 700 horsepower, which should be adequate. That's going to mean I got to change how the rad fits on here, but I waffled for a long time because that was a bit pricey. But another motor is more pricey than a rad, so got a Skookum rad.
So these are Jeep Grand Cherokees, 18-inch steelies, 18 by 7.5, and my vision with this bugly late 50s kind of vibe the truck gives off with the wraparound windshield and ugly front end is fake white walls or faux white walls by painting the hoops of the wheels white. In my head it should look sweet. We're going to find out, won't we? Hopefully it looks good when we're done. I need audio for this, don't I? So on the back of the fenders where the new fuel filter is going to be, if you trace out the outline of the actual fuel filler, that's the size hole you want to cut. And then I bend the end over with this tool. So this is just a piece of, looks like 3/8 rod with a slot cut in the end that can fit into here. And then I can just bend it down, and then I kind of went in from the backside and pulled it the rest of the way down. I think that's about a 1/4 inch or so. So, thanks for coming along for the ride. Next video is going to be hopefully finishing the paint on this. This is my hobby. I'm just sharing it with you. Appreciate your comments down below. I'm totally going to read each and every one. And we'll see you next week. Or next video. It'll probably be next month if I'm honest. Thanks for watching.